Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Sirhan on X, coming to you live from Cincinnati, Ohio, here in the United States, where it's cold and icy cold in the teens right now. The wind chill is supposed to be below zero within the next couple days. Stuck in my own driveway because the snow wanted to come down after I cleaned it yesterday, and now as a result, I'm stuck probably for another day or two. So it is what it is at this point. Hope everyone out there is doing well on this 7th of January, 2025. Uh, just a cold day. If you guys are living in the frigid conditions, hope you guys are staying warm because it's cold all over the place. And I mean, COLD cold. It's coming here in Cincinnati. It's actually, the snow is starting to drift away a little bit because it stopped, but I'm still stuck in the driveway, unfortunately. So that's where I stand right now. Uh, Gonna touch on some things here real quick. This one won't be as long as some of the others because I have another show I got to do later tonight. It's a group podcast about some NFL talk. Just to remind you guys, I'm gonna go off on several things here in Cincinnati. I'm sure you guys understand my frustrations, so I'm gonna use it to touch base on some things. But let's get right down to it. The NFL, as always, this time of year is Black Monday. And actually, you can call today Black Tuesday because it was just announced that the Titans fire Rand Carthon, and of course, to the surprise of no one, the Las Vegas Raiders. I keep calling them the Oakland Raiders. Fire their head coach, uh, Antonio Pierce. I don't know if it's fired because I think his contract was up or whatever, but they've parted ways. Let me remind you, no one saw. I don't think anybody should be surprised at this. If you are, then I'm surprised that you're surprised because this was coming. He had that crazy Mahomes rules way back when he talked about the before the season started about thinking he's going to has a formula to stop Patrick Mahomes when he didn't, and didn't help the fact that the team just went to I think it was finished like 4-13. So the writing was on the wall. Anyways, I know supposedly the players liked him, but apparently Mark Davis doesn't. But of course, we consider that the bloodlines of Mark Davis, the late Al Davis, who are known for the theatrics in the NFL and stuff like that, it comes as no surprise because we know Mark Davis loves theatrics more than putting together a successful football team because that's what's going on with Las Vegas. Because that's why they're going to be in the position they're at for the longest time. I think just in this decade alone, whoever you're going to hire is going to be their fifth head coach. We think of John Gruden, Rich Blasia, Josh McDaniels, and recently Antonio Pierce. Are they going to be their fifth coach in the 2020s decade? Not good. As I said, Mark Davis, the owner, is all about the theatrics and putting together a real football program. He just doesn't have the balls to admit it. Maybe if he does have the balls to admit it, maybe he'll set him free. But again, he doesn't have the balls to admit it. Just leave that alone as it is. Of course, the Titans, we said firing Ron Carthon, their general manager. The team has been a mess ever since they were eliminated by Cincinnati in the 2021 AFC divisional round. Because, after that, of course, the fiasco with A.J. Brown. Remember, there was the contract dispute. They didn't want to pay him. They traded him to Philadelphia, and he get a first-round pick. That first-round pick went up being a guy named Treylon Burks, who basically has been a bust ever since he's been in the NFL. And, of course, they fired then GM John Robinson, fired the coach Mike Vrabel. They bring in a Brian Callahan, the offensive coordinator from Cincinnati, and we know that doesn't work at all. Of course, they fired John Robinson after he drafted Will Levis. Of course, the feeling is Will Levis got this guy fired, which, everybody has their opinions on Will Levis. I have a lot of Tennessee followers. I'm sure you guys can help me out with this. But it's been a mess ever since you guys were eliminated from the 2021 AFC divisional round against Cincinnati. I mean, it's been all over the place. I mean, the A.J. Brown was basically the final nail in that coffin. I mean, the crazy thing was that team, you had the number one seed, you had everything. And, Ryan Tannehill just laid an egg against the Bengals. I mean, that last interception, which was a pass that made no sense, which was into double coverage and was picked off by Logan Wilson. More likely the final nail in the coffin for that particular run because they had a heck of a squad during that period. When you think about Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, and A.J. Brown. Offensive line was stout. Defense was good, led by, of course, the standout D tackle Jeffrey Simmons. But now they're in a rebuilding phase, and it's going to probably be like that for a while. And it's going to take some time, but I wouldn't be. They're going to need some patience. They try to put a Band-Aid team together this year with getting Jamal Adams, Chidobe Awuzie, and of course acquiring L'Jarius Sneed from Kansas. That didn't work. So back to the drawing board. They're gonna have to literally build from the ground up and try to get this thing going here again, because ever since they decided to trade AJ Brown, the franchise has been a hot mess. Of course, it didn't help. Their then offensive coordinator got caught in a DUI situation, and that was basically it, because they lost the rest of the 2022 season after that incident happened. So, a rebuilding situation there in Tennessee. Of course, we talk about clown shows, maybe not bigger than the New York Jets. They interviewed, I think, like 5 coaches today. I can't think of who they all are. I know they interviewed Rex Ryan, which made next to no sense. I mean, I don't know what they're going to get out of him at this point. They interviewed him. They interviewed, I think one was Dennis Allen, who was an intentional failure in New Orleans. We know that. Of course, there's a rumor that just now came out that Bill Belichick, before he took the job at the University of North Carolina, inquired to the Jets about that job, and nobody, of course, responded. Simply put, because the bad blood that resonates over the years between Bill Belichick and the Jets. Going back to, if you remember, in 2000, he was supposed to succeed Bill Parcells when Parcells resigned because the Patriots were coming after him. Of course, the problem there was a friction in ownership, and Belichick just after one day said, "I'm out," and went to New England, and the rest is history. And of course, he's never liked the Jets ever since. So the Jets will continue to be the clown show. Reason being, their owner is Woody Johnson. They have a narcissist coward who's a quarterback who's 41 years old. Supposedly he's supposed to retire, but I'll believe it when I see it. But that's why the Jets are the Jets. I don't know who's going to be the head coach there, but good luck trying to fix that mess, because you got a ways to go. I mean, now they're talking about maybe rumors flying around that Garrett Wilson might request a trade. Sauce Gardner basically said teams checked out. DJ Reed basically came out and said, the hell with this, I'm out. Yeah, it's a mess in New York. They're a clown show, and there's a bunch of people out here who thought they was going to overtake Buffalo for the AFC East title. I told you so. I told you they weren't going to overtake Buffalo for the AFC East. I told you they weren't going to make the playoffs. I told you guys from the get-go. You didn't want to listen. Look at you guys now. I mean, Zach Wilson has a better winning percentage as a quarterback of the New York Jets than this coward that's over there right now. That's saying a hell of a whole lot. And you wanted to run him out. And of course, speaking of the New York, New England area, it was announced that after they fired Gerard Mayo, the Patriots now going to interview Mike Vrabel Thursday. How can you not be surprised at this? I mean, before Gerard Mayo was just caught in a dirty act by Robert Kraft, as always. I mean, the way Robert Kraft did Bill Belichick dirty when he left New England. And of course, now he's going to hire him Thursday. I mean, how could you not see this coming? This is basically a foregone conclusion. He's going to wind up taking that Patriots job and trying to fix that mess. So good luck with that. But again, the true colors of Robert Kraft once again came out. And I said all along, this is who Robert Kraft was going back 3 decades. What 3 decades? About 3.5 decades ago, when Bill Parcells was over there, and he busted out that infamous, groceries comment. If you guys remember the press conference there, you guys can Google it. I don't remember the exact words, but it tells you how Robert Kraft himself is a clown show with what's going on in New England. They were tanking, aside of beating Cincinnati. They were tanking for that one pick. They got the, of course, Mayo probably knew when he got fired, made sure they got the win to as a way to give Robert Kraft the middle finger on the way out, and that's what basically happened. So anybody who thinks Mike Vrabel wasn't going to get the interview or this job, you have another thing coming. I mean, it's basically, I don't want to say it's official yet, but don't be surprised if it's finalized, because everybody saw this one coming. Actually, I was hoping he would be in the staff here in Cincinnati, but that was basically a long shot at best. And of course, speaking of Cincinnati, two defensive coordinators were looked at. It's being Patrick, if I got the name correctly. One was Douglas Covington of the Jets. The other one is Patrick, his name correctly, Patrick Graham, the defensive coordinator of the Raiders. Question is, will these guys be any better than Lou Anarumo? Because I said this after yesterday, after you guys fired Lou Anarumo. Outside of Trey Hendrickson, your personnel is the definition of worse than average. Basically, guys who don't even belong in the NFL. Maybe one or two guys in there. But basically, if you didn't have Trey Hendrickson, can you imagine how bad your defense would be? And you guys were basically historically bad last season and this season with him. And you're going to be at an impasse in a couple years having to re-sign Trey Hendrickson simply because you're going to have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins coming up. And now you're at a quandrum of what the hell you're going to do. Unfortunately, he's probably going to be the odd man out when his contract is up after next season because they're going to have to make some financial decisions. I'm hoping they do the smart thing and find a way to keep him. But we know how the NFL salary cap and NFL salaries work, and he's going to have to want top dollar. And basically, that's the end of the time for him. There, it's going to be. Of course, people want Robert Saleh. I think he would be the ideal situation. But a point was made perfectly. We consider the guy's been a head coach. I don't think he wants to regress to being a defensive coordinator unless he really wants to be. But I expect him to land a head coaching job somewhere because we know the situation in New York. He was just basically given a roll deal, and that was just terrible for him. Largely because of that 41-year-old narcissist coward at their starting quarterback was why Robert Saleh got fired. Everybody knows this. Nobody's fooled, including myself. But for Cincinnati, you're going to need to make a total makeover on that defense, and you need it bad. You have guys on that roster who needed or dead weight who need to go. I mean, you brought Sheldon Rankins, who basically just no-showed after week 4 for whatever reason. You had Sam Hubbard, who basically played injured, who basically was on borrowed time. He needs to go. Bring in a Jermaine Pratt, who ran his mouth. He needs to go. Secondary needs totally remade outside of Josh Newton, who I actually liked as a rookie. Cam Taylor-Britt, he can go because he doesn't know how to shut up. So there's your safeties need totally redone. You can keep Jordan Battle, but good luck trying to put the secondary. Whoever is going to be that defensive coordinator is going to have the work cut out for him. Now I know schematics is going to be a different, and as a personnel, it's probably need to be changed. But at the same time, I said all along, if you're going to fire someone on a coaching staff like that, make sure you have a replacement that's capable of getting the job done. We've seen the story for years here in Cincinnati that basically they want to hire who they want to hire. I mean, there's a lot of capable guys out there. Let's see what happens. And so good luck with that. Of course, Jacksonville fires Doug Peterson, who didn't see this one coming. 5-18 in his last 23 starts, reminiscent of how his time in Philly ended. I mean, he's now going to be as a bad coach, and probably nobody's going to probably look at it anymore unless you're in tank mode. But of course, a bigger problem there in Jacksonville is their general manager, Trent Baalke. Ask San Francisco 49ers fans about Trent Baalke. They'll tell you all about him because they don't like him down in Jacksonville. And in fact, he still has a job. Says a lot about why Jacksonville ownership is just a ridiculous waste of hot trash right now, because that's what Jacksonville is. I mean, you paid Trevor Lawrence a ridiculous amount of money, and now you named a stadium after him with Trevor Bank of Field, whatever the heck they call it now. And now for basically you went 9-8 last season, and this season you got you only won, I think it was like 4 games this season, 3 or 4, can't remember. Not a good look. Good luck trying to retool things down there in Jacksonville because it's going to be a minute. And you're in a division, the AFC South, which is basically maybe one of the 2-3 worst divisions in all of the NFL. You talk about having a retool in the AFC South. That's not good. Good luck, Jacksonville. Enough. That takes care of that part. Now, part 2 of something that's still ongoing, and we have people who still don't get it. And I guess I have to get involved because somebody came at me on X this morning. And don't think I don't see you. I see you out there. Once again, this accusation came up. This is from an individual, actually, an individual who I follow on X and follows me. Actually, a pretty cool chick. I'm surprised she came up with this. Lady comes out and says about some kind of forfeiting rules thing in the NFL where they were basically cheating their way to a loss. We're talking about, Kansas resting their starters against Denver. It's still an ongoing conversation. When you're 15-1, going to your season finale, clinch the number 1 seed, nothing to play for, one of the having goals to complete probably a historical run in NFL history, you can do whatever you want, whether anybody likes it or not. If you guys in Cincinnati still have a problem with it, if you have a problem with what the Kansas City did to set guys against Denver, I'm gonna be nice to you because I'm a caring guy. I'm a very caring guy. I'm gonna give you the good advice. If you think Kansas was wrong for what they did, get off the app. Go to a local hospital around here, especially there's a lot of good ones here in Cincinnati. Go into an emergency room and get checked for CTE, and say we're here because we think Kansas City forfeited the game on purpose to prevent the Bengals from going to the playoffs. Get the results, and then once you get those results, you're more than welcome to bring it to me so I can go ahead and help you. Because Kansas City was not afraid of the Bengals. Actually, the New England Patriots weren't afraid of the Bengals. Okay, let's get that out of the way. The New England Patriots weren't afraid of the Bengals, and if they weren't afraid of the Bengals, nobody's going to be afraid of the Bengals. I just want to sit that out there without trying to laugh on this show right now, because you guys in Cincinnati really crack me up. You guys in Cincinnati really crack me up. I say on the shows all the time. I say on this podcast all the time. All these live streams all the time. I'm over here. You're over there. That's for a reason. And that's why I call you guys a funny house. Actually, tell you how crazy these guys, how crazy and local in the head these guys are. Last November, I went to the Sunday night game here, the Striped Jungle, Buffalo at Cincinnati. I'm taking a walk, and there's a 46-person wait line at a porta potty in Cincinnati. Think about that. A 46-person wait line at a porta potty in Cincinnati. Not a public restroom, not a private restroom, not a hotel restroom, not inside a hotel room, not inside of a set of woods. 46-person wait at a porta potty. That's what you need to know about Cincinnati Bengals fans. I'll close a book on that one because I gotta have a serious show to conduct here, and I don't want to, spend my time laughing at it. But I'll just conclude on one last thing, and this is to everybody in Cincinnati when it comes to you super play fans, content creators, media people. You're going to resort to the block button when you get pushback. You're a bona fide moron. You are a bona fide moron. Simply because you guys want to drive the wrong way on a one-way street and thinking nobody's going to come at you. You're the definition of a moron. Simply put, when I came at you guys the other night, with your idiotic let's go Chiefs, trying to get a playoff spot you didn't deserve, that's what you resorted to. That's fine. That's your prerogative. But it shows the sensitivity, the ignorancy, the moronism that you guys carry yourselves at. And don't get me wrong, I love the hell out of you guys. But you see me doing that? No. Plain and simple. I'll go ahead and take care of that another day, because this whole thing is you guys are just a hot mess, thinking you guys deserve a playoff spot over the Denver Broncos when the Broncos were better than you all season long. I love the Bengals like a bunch of you guys do. I always support the team. I always have. It's you guys, the way you guys carry yourselves is where the problem lies. And I said all along, I stand on my own. But good luck in the draft picking 17th overall, because going 9-8 for a second straight season with a healthy starting quarterback, when last season your quarterback missed, I think it was like 6 to 7, like 8, the final 8 games of the season. Everything's not a good look. You had a 4th place schedule, you finished with the same record. Terrible. I'll be dealing with you guys more in the offseason. But the Kansas City Chiefs, when you win 3 Super Bowls in 5 years, you can do whatever the heck it is you want. The one seed, anybody doesn't like it, take it, because it's their prerogative. And no, the Chiefs didn't quit. They're playing practice squad guys. How the hell are you going to tell me they quit? That's their, 38-0 difference. How about it? That's what the NFL is for. 2/3 of you guys haven't even played a game in your lives. And that's all I have to say about that. Again, nothing against some of the fans here. It's those super fans, those media people, and as well as the content creators, what the hell they call themselves, is my problem. enjoy the off season, enjoy Cancun, enjoy the Bahamas. I look forward to seeing how you guys act the rest of the way because I quit trying to play Mr. Nice Guy. I said from the get go, I was going to be back in this. I'm going to be honest. I did it in the boxing community. Now I'm doing the football community, whether you guys like it or not. End of conversation. Well, speaking of boxing, it was announced today. Keyshawn-Davis against Dennis, if I can pronounce that game correctly, Dennis Berinchyk for one of the belts. It's going to come basically 36 years to the day that another Norfolk product, Pernell Whitaker, beat Greg Haugen. And we saw Whitaker's reign of greatness. Same for this Norfolk, Virginia native, Keyshawn-Davis, as he's going to become the lightweight champ, because I expect him to handle business against Berinchyk. A very sound, rugged fighter in Berinchyk, but the problem with Berinchyk is he's fighting a special talent in Keyshawn-Davis. Actually, it's a good card over there at Madison Square Garden where you talk about not just Keyshawn-Davis, Abdullah Mason's going to be on the card, and of course the standout, as you can find his name, Zayas, Patrick Zayas, and Nikolai Walsh is supposed to be on the card. Somebody else, I can't think of the individual's name as it is. But this is a no-brainer simply because Keyshawn-Davis handled business at the scope last time when he knocked out Gustavus Lemon in a fight which basically had no business taking place because Lemon wanted to be 12 pounds over the weight limit. But Keyshawn-Davis is him, and he's going to show it when he takes care of business, when he takes care of Berinchyk at the Garden. I expect him to handle it. I probably expect him to get like a late round stoppage, maybe a decision. Berinchyk, no slouch, got the win over Emmanuel Navarrete not too long ago. Going to be a good fight. And the rest of the card is going to be filled with outstanding young talent. I'm looking forward to this. I think it's like February 14th. I got to see if I'm off that night or not. I'll go ahead and check it out. So, good card coming up at Madison Square Garden. I'll be tweeting it live on my X platform. Now to the historical moment today. We talk about the little big men because that's what this card is filled with. We're going to go back 30 years ago today to a fight where neither guy was going to wow you in terms of their greatness and stature, but put out a good scrap in the featherweight division in Reno, Nevada. This was the fight between Alejandro Gonzalez and probably one of the more exciting fighters of that time in the mid-90s in those divisions, the Flushing Flash, Kevin Kelley. Kelley was 41-0, brought in a championship belt. Gonzalez had an established record. One of the established Mexican fighters, they started to come on the mid-90s with guys like Morales, Barrera, some of them. Didn't mount to that level, but was a very solid fighter. Great scrap between both of these featherweights, back and forth, and a great scrap it was. And I personally acknowledge, I thought Kevin Kelley was just going to be at a whole new skill level compared to Gonzalez in this fight because I didn't know much about Alejandro Gonzalez. Because I saw Kevin Kelley when he won the title from Goyo Vargas, beat Jesse Benavidez, had a great free TV fight in '93 at the Garden against Troy Dorsey, was back and forth action. I thought that would be the difference. Alejandro Gonzalez showed more skill in this fight than I thought he would have. It was a good back and forth tilt between both fighters. I expected nothing less. But as the fight wore on, this basically was the gradual end of Kelley because both his eyes were starting to become a grotesque mask where he couldn't see. And Gonzalez's willpower, his skill started to take over, and the fight was essentially over at the end of the 10th round where I can't remember whether the corner tossed a towel or the referee stopped it. Basically, both of Kelley's eyes were a grotesque mask, and Gonzalez won the featherweight championship. A very, very sound featherweight at that time was Gonzalez. Didn't ascend to the level like Eric Morales, Marco Antonio Barrera, Juan Manuel Marquez, simply because that's a whole different level. But was a sound Mexican fighter in those featherweight divisions, gave anyone a good fight, never ducked anyone. Basically, this was his crowning moment when he won the featherweight championship and was a very sound fighter. Had basically up and down career. After this was inconsistent, but this was his crowning glory. For Kevin Kelley, lots of thrills. I mean, exciting fighter, always in a fight that was always exciting, especially in the mid-90s. We talk about the haymaker left that pasted Derek Gainer, stretched out on the canvas, and it was down and out for the count. Of course, you're going to forget that war 97 against Prince Nassim Hamed, where both guys were going back and forth. And at the same time, you can forget also, he had a sound win later in his career. I can't think of the opponent. It was young prospect where he won. But every time you turn on HBO or Boxing After Dark or World Championship Boxing and you saw Kevin Kelley on there, he certainly was must-watch TV. Sturdy southpaw, very exciting. Can box, can punch, can mix it up. Just a very fun fighter and was basically brought a lot of thrills. Again, neither of these two guys ascended to the all-time great stature among the featherweights, but I'll tell you this: Kevin Kelley uh, and Alejandro Gonzalez were must-watch TV during the mid-90s at a time when that division started to get sizzling because you had the upcoming of Morales and Barrera. You had, of course, the Prince Hamed, who basically was the show. Juan Manuel Marquez came on. You had Wilfredo Vasquez and Luisito Espinoza in there. That division started to get pretty hot. Freddie Norwood also. Back in the 90s, the featherweight division was hot, and it carried over the 2000s with the Morales Barrera trilogy. And later on, Marquez came on. Now, of course, when we talk about some of the featherweights on the all-time level, my favorite subject, we're going to go to the old school 8. This is the topic that includes the featherweight division. 4 guys are the gold standard, in my opinion: Willie Pep, Sadie Sadler, Salvador Sanchez, and Henry Armstrong. Pep and Sadler, we know for the 4-fight series where Sadler won 3, Pep won 1. Of course, it was chronicled the accident with Pep, and he was never the same. Probably Pep gets that nod. Sadler probably second behind him by default. But down there, it gets a lot of interesting names. We're talking about, of course, Abe Patel is one of them, known for his involvement in the 1919 Black Sox scandal, but had a great run as a featherweight. Johnny Kilbane was a good one. Even Eusebio Pedroza lost in all the shuffle. Alexis Arguello was in that division. Of course, we talk about Henry Armstrong, the multiple time champion from featherweight to welterweight to lightweight, standout. Also in the conversation was none other than Kid Chocolate. I mean, known for a couple fights with Tony Canzanori. Canzanori is in the conversation. One of the original multi-division champs. I mean, he doesn't get talked about enough as the all-time great. It was Tony Canzanori. Of course, we can go to more of the modern times. Morales, Barrera, Marquez. They're in the conversation because of the Morales Barrera trilogy. Marquez, as a featherweight, actually started to ascend when he got higher, but when he started to ascend, it helped his featherweight stature because that's who Juan Manuel Marquez was. Terry McGovern was a good one back then. A guy like Young Griffo. This is like way back when the only way you fight was by knockout, and Young Griffo was a pretty darn good one during those days. My favorite thing about featherweights is that they don't have the they're not overly big, but what they do is they're like machines. When they go, they go. That's what the featherweights were. A bunch of other names I mentioned. Obviously Johnny Dundee and Jimmy Driscoll is in the conversation. Freddie Miller, George Dixon is a good one. Maybe a more modern, a guy like, actually, here's a good one for you. Should you even mention a guy named Vicente Salvador? No, Saldivar, Salvador, get it mixed up with somebody else. A solid southpaw, which is unheard of for Mexican fighters at the time. But Vicente Salvador was a very sound featherweight, known for winning the title from a fighter named Sugar Ramos. Standout Mexican fighter for that era. This is before all the big names started to come along. Saldivar was one of those. Featherweight division, deep and unique. I've always said when it comes to those little big guys, and when I touch on the flyweights and the bantamweights here in the next couple of nights, it's going to be even more fun and deep. I mean, they're like the Energizer Bunny. Wind them up, let them go. And there were guys back in the late 1800s to the early 1900s in that division that did it. Of course, you had your stylists like Willie Pep and Sadie Sadler, but in the middle there you had all these fighters like Harry Jaffa and a Young Griffo, very aggressive. Of course, Vicente Saldivar. Great depth of the featherweight division. I've said this all along when it comes to these all-time divisions. There's so much criteria. I don't give a ranking. A lot of these guys want to. There's too much to take into consideration because everybody knows how I stand about rankings and stats and all this stuff. It's never been my nature, and I don't like it. I'll say this: I just threw names at you of these divisions, and you can read them how you want. Lots of great guys, and lots of intriguing, and I mean real stories. Especially the one on Kid Chocolate. That's a real good one. I recommend reading on Kid Chocolate. Eusebio Pedrosa was a good one. Uh, had a very long 10 years of featherweight and even a super featherweight champion when it started to become the super and junior division started to come around. Excellent stuff, and is a must read for everybody out there if in the fight world because everybody gets too stuck in the recency bias. I understand it, but maybe if you read some of this a little bit, maybe just maybe we can have a better appreciation of how they carved the path for all of us. I mean, I could point to other divisions, which I'm going to do in the next couple of days, but interesting stories. Maybe one of the favorite things of one of my followers I talk to sports with has gotten me to do some research on a lot of these guys. There were some bad guys during those eras. You got to take things in bigger the context of what those eras were versus what we had today. So many crisscrossing, so many lefts, rights, so many ups, downs. You can have it any way you want. That's all I have to say. Boy, I wish we could have the old school eight and back to the one belt eras again, because it would bring a lot of clarity to our sport, to the sport of boxing again. Because there was a time when fight championships were the lead sports story on all of the sports networks. I mean, in any division. I mean, we had, of course, had the stronger personalities like an Ali, Leonard, Tyson. But back then, the main story was always whoever was going to be the world champion in the sport of boxing. I would love to see those days back. I'm glad to be back in this community, but I like to see a lot of things can become better. But man, it's been a crazy couple of days being stuck in this snowy weather. Got a lot to get off my chest, and I'm gladly I did it. And that will wrap up this edition of Sirhan on X. I'm actually going to be live on X Spaces in about a half hour to talk more NFL. I'll be back at it tomorrow night. For everyone who's out in the colder weather conditions, stay warm, stay warm, stay cold. Don't go outside unless you necessarily have to. I'm basically stuck till the next day or two, unfortunately. So until then, have yourselves a wonderful night. Take care and God bless.